Dealer 404 Boxing and more. Before I get started, I want to say shout out to the LDBC. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new to the channel, welcome back to the channel. To the repeat viewers, welcome back to the channel. To the subscribers, I want to thank you for your subscription. And if anyone who's subscribed to the channel, I ask that you please subscribe. If you feel the content, please like, share, and comment. I want to talk a little bit about Keith Thurman. Yes, the man that calls himself the one time. You know, with Keith Thurman, we've been hearing rumors that Thurman's coming back. I mean, it's like every month there's a new Keith Thurman rumor. You know, that he's coming back. He's coming back to fight this guy. He's coming back to fight that guy. I think it was rumored he was going to fight Jesse Vargas. It was rumored he was going to fight Josecito Lopez. It was rumored that he was coming back to fight, what's that kid's name? Man, I forgot the guy's name. But even now, it's rumored that he was coming back to fight Judah. Just all kind of different rumors out there about Keith Thurman and what he's gonna do, what he's. Oh yeah, one time they talked about he would possibly be fighting Devin Alexander. That's who it was I was thinking about. So you know, it's always some new Keith Thurman rumors, like every couple of days. But then you'll see Keith, when they finally get the camera on and put him on an interview, Keith doesn't look like he's even interested in boxing. I don't even know that he's even interested in boxing as a fan or a spectator. You know, is that, you know, it's almost like those old guys who used to be this back in the day, and then now they no longer, there's not the life they're living. Is like in a past life they were this or they were that. You know, it's almost like that's what Keith's become, like this old relic on the block, just, you know, telling these war stories about when he was in his heyday. And he's looking at how these young guys out there moving in the streets, and he could tell, you know, who's making the right moves and who's not, and so forth and so on, because he lived that life. That's kind of the way I see it when Keith's talking about boxing and when they put a camera in his face. But you know, at the end of the day, when it comes to Keith Thurman, I think, you know, and this is just my opinion. I'm not going to try to force this on anybody else. And maybe you disagree with me, you have the right to disagree. I think as it pertains to all this injury stuff that's supposedly been keeping him out of boxing, I think most of that stuff is exaggerated. I think the reality is that Keith really hasn't had a desire to box. I think Keith was one of those, you know, guys that he was really looking forward to that big money fight with Mayweather that never came to fruition. And I think at some point he thought that he would turn himself into the star that, you know, a star similar to what Mayweather was. That never came to fruition. And then all of a sudden these other guys started coming up in the division. And I think he got to a point where, you know what I'm saying, he knew that the fights aren't going to get any easier. You know, Keith, that one time went out the window quite some time ago. And I mean, I know you can't take the guy's name, but that's his moniker. That's what he goes by. I understand that. But my point is the living that one time, you know, with that, you know, going in there and just dropping guys and, I mean, knocking guys out, that kind of stopped once Thurman stepped up to a certain level. And I'm not knocking him for that. That's understandable. That happens a lot of times in boxing. A lot of my favorite guys, they had a lot of knockouts, and then once they got to a certain level, guys just weren't going away as easily, you know. So, you know, we respect that. Thurman has very respectable power, though. I'm not going to try to take that away from him, but I know he's not stopping guys these days. I mean, not these days, but in the last several fights, he's not stopping anybody these days because he's not fighting. But, you know, I really feel like had Errol Spence not been bearing down on Keith as hard as he was about trying to get that fight, I think we'd have seen Keith Thurman back some time ago. I think the reality is that Thurman's probably of the belief that at some point Errol's going to outgrow the welterweight division, and he's probably hoping that happens sooner than later, and we'll see Keith Thurman come back and be fighting, you know, like mad at the welterweight division, you know, every time you turn around. Because, you know, Keith's one of those guys that he's his height probably makes him a little too short to move up to 154, especially with the guys that are at 54 right now. Those guys are legitimate 154 pounders, and then you got some guys that just look huge for 154, like M.I.A and Hurd. So, I don't think that's a division Thurman's interested in unless he just cannot make welterweight, which puts him at in a situation where, I can understand him being hesitant to come back. He's got to get down to the weight he's comfortable at. But that said, I just think that Thurman needs to really make his mind up whether or not he wants to box anymore. And if he doesn't, I think he needs to go ahead and retire. Or, or if he's gonna do it, he needs to go ahead and fully commit himself back to the sport, and start working his way back into shape and working himself back up to the top of his game, so that we can see what Keith Thurman is and what he has left. Because the reality is that all this time Thurman's been sitting around doing whatever he's doing, these other guys have been fighting, even though they're not fighting very often, but they've been fighting and getting better. And I'm not saying that as if these guys had to catch up to Keith Thurman. I don't mean that. I mean, I know some of these guys, I think even Danny Garcia and Sean Porter both were in close fights with him, that, could have gone either way in some people's eyes. He didn't just blow either one of those guys out, is what I'm saying. So it's not like he was just head and shoulders over these other guys. I think Spence was always going to be a tough fight for him at any point. I think Crawford is a tough fight. So, and that's just those guys. I mean, that don't mean that there are not other guys out there that are, just as worthy as these. I'm just mentioning those guys because they're the top guys in the division. But the reality is, like I said, Keith Thurman hadn't been seen in a ring going on 2 years now. And we don't know what a 2-year layoff's going to look like on Keith Thurman when he comes back to fight. And that's really the reality of it, is that, boxing is one of those sports that you can come out in April and look spectacular, come back 4 months later in October. Excuse me, 4 months. I'm a little sleepy there. Come back 4 months later in August and, look like garbage. And it has nothing to do with your opponent. It's just, you could just somehow, seemingly just have a terrible night or just lose it like that. It just kind of depends on where you are in your career. Sometimes you can have a bad camp. Your trainer just didn't gel, or whatever the case might be. So when a guy comes back off of a 2-year layoff, man, you never know what you're going to see out of that guy. So, I mean, I used to feel like when Thurman first was talking about coming back, that I was like, no, I want to see him in there against top guys, et cetera, et cetera. Now, we're talking about almost 2 years. I understand him taking a soft touch coming back. I mean, he almost has to. He almost has to take a soft touch just to see how he feels in a boxing ring under the bright lights again. But at the same time, when you're a two-time champion and have own titles and for 2 different sanctioned bodies, even though I know you're stripped of one, but my point is, when you're that guy, you need to be every bit of willing to fight at least a top 15 guy. I feel like if he can't fight a top 15 guy, then, maybe he does need to step away from the sport. I don't know. All I know is this guy has been coming back longer than Jesus. And I don't know that the return is anywhere near in sight. He may not come back inside of that 2-year mark. I mean, I think people call Thurman one day and he's saying, yeah, he's ready to come back. And I think those same people call him back saying, okay, we got this guy lined up. What do you think about it? Then he says, yeah, I need more time. I'm not ready. I don't know. I'm just eager to see what happens. And the thing is, people have gotten to the point that nobody's talking about Keith anymore. And I think that's sad for him. Because even when everybody was critical of him, at least they were talking about him. But it's getting to the point where it's like people are forgetting or forgetting that he even exists in boxing. You know, when they talk about the welterweight division, they talk about who's the best. It's all Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford. Nobody talks about Keith Thurman because he's not in that picture. But the reality is, you know, if you think about the time when Mayweather was the top guy in the division, even when he was away from the sport for about a year, but everybody knew he was trying to come back or thinking about coming back. If you talked about that division, you talked about the top guys, his name was brought up. Even though Manny Pacquiao was still active and may have been, at that time, looking very dominant, people didn't dismiss Floyd as if he was a non-factor. But that's what's happening to Keith Thurman. That's what he's relegated to. So, you know, like I said, Thurman needs to make his mind on what he's going to do. He has a lot of fans out there. And I think if he comes back and, you know, works his way back up, he's going to get his fans back. And he can bring that excitement, you know, help rejuvenate the division. Because the reality is, that division is kind of stagnant. You know what I'm saying? It has been for a minute. And it kind of started when he left the division. When he kind of went out, it seemed like guys kind of stopped moving around so much. And I think a lot of it had to do with a lot of these guys were working their way. A lot of these guys were interested in fighting Keith. And then all of a sudden Keith went away, and it was kind of like, okay, they don't really want to fight each other because they want their shot at him or whatever it was. But the reality is that I think for the welterweight division, it is more exciting with Keith Thurman in the picture. Regardless of what happens with him, I think he's good for the division when he's active. When he left, he was good for the division. I think if he comes back and he can be what he was, he'll be good for the division again. And I think with all the dates that PBC should have, you know, in 2019, I think that could be a very beautiful picture in the welterweight division unfolding with the top guys and the guys just a notch below. But like I said, I'm eager to see what happens. I'm going to go ahead and close this one out. I'm out of here. Thanks for viewing. Peace.